Hi, my name is Ian Creswell. I'm one of the product managers here at Passport Software, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to show you an awesome new feature that we're releasing in version 12.08, which is our next release due out in August of 2022. That exciting new feature, it's really a whole new program set. It's called eDocs, and it's going to kind of revolutionize the way that we file stuff within an organization. How do we do that? Well, beginning in 12.08, we are going to introduce the eDocs programs into our accounts payable and accounts receivable. Now, this is going to be a little unique. This is going to be an embedded document management solution within the Passport installation, and it will actually be a part of the Passport SQL installation. Now, it is exclusive to the SQL version of Passport. Why? Well, it is itself a SQL-based application. So for the cross-application communication, we need both sides of the database to be in a SQL world. So if you're not running SQL and this is something you really want to have, talk to your partner about moving to SQL. All that said and done, in the beginning it will be available in accounts payable and accounts receivable. And it's going to be available, as I said, as a part of the base product. You're not going to have to purchase the eDocs for accounts payable and accounts receivable. The idea is we want to provide the basic document management tool as a part of SQL. There will be some premium versions of the application down the road that will be made available for manufacturing and distribution and so on, which will allow for some other fun and exciting things, and those will be for a purchase. But the base system is going to come from basically just embedded in your system manager for the Passport SQL version. Now, one quick note: if you upgrade to version 12.08 and you try it for the first time and you're not seeing your scanners, don't worry about it. Reach out to your partner. There are two different driver versions of the program that allow for accessing different types of scanners within an organization. All you have to do is contact your Passport partner. They should be able to turn on the other driver, and you will likely see the scanners that you already have in-house. Now, this isn't limited to scanning. This does also open us up to the ability to bring in existing digital documents, and we're going to talk about each of those briefly as we go through this. So I mentioned it's available in accounts payable and accounts receivable. Well, where is it available? It's available under the vendors. It's also available under payables. Enter. This is the big one, and this is the one that really drove us to do this. We're actually using this in-house right now. Typically, when we receive an invoice from a vendor, the accounts payable clerk is going to sit down and they're going to pull all the documentation related to that purchase order. Could be it includes a copy of the original PO, might include a copy of the packing list when the delivery was originally received, could be a receiving form, and certainly we're going to have a copy of the actual invoice itself. We're going to process our payables once we verify all the information matches, but then typically we're going to staple these things together and we're going to put them into a file somewhere. Well, what if we could have all those documents available associated directly with the voucher? That was the original conception of this whole project. So that's how we kind of approach this, was to give you the ability to do that sort of thing. So I'm not restricted to a single document. I could actually attach several as one to a particular voucher, or I could attach several individual documents to a particular voucher and give myself the ability to go back and look at the supporting paperwork right from my desk. I don't have to get up and go to the filing cabinet and hope that it was filed correctly when it was originally processed and the paperwork put away. Everything can be right there at your fingertips. So as I mentioned, vendors, payables, enter. It's also available under our view open items. So if I'm looking at an open item in the system and it has docs available with it, I should be able to find them quickly and easily. We can also attach or find them under our view vendor invoices as well. In accounts receivable, you're going to find it available under customers, invoices. So if we're processing an invoice, we want to attach something to it, we can't. Cash receipts, customer open items, view invoice history, and even under recurring bills, recurring sales, and miscellaneous charges. So we've put this in several key places throughout the accounts payable and accounts receivable modules so that you will have access to those documents either by scanning them in then, or if they have been scanned in prior while you're reviewing an open item, as a for instance, or we're looking at our customer history, that document is going to pass along through to each of those individual areas. Now the document's not really going anywhere. It's just associated with a particular transaction or maybe a particular customer. So how does this all work? Let's start in accounts payable. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with a vendor. Why would I attach documents to a vendor? Well, maybe you have some sort of a contract with a vendor and you wanted to bring that contract in and attach it to the vendor so you can refer back to it later. That is certainly an option to do. So how do we get our documents in? We simply click on eDocs and we're going to tell it we want to scan in docs. It's going to bring up a list of our available scanners and it's going to allow us to select from them and scan it. Now I want you to notice over here to the right, under the parameters, it's already filled in my parameters for me. It allows me to automatically grab who the vendor is and that sort of thing. If this were a voucher, what's the voucher number, a PO number, that sort of thing. Document type and even a reference field. So at this point, I've got my Brother scanner, and by the way, I'm going to be working with two today. I have a Brother, it's the ADS 1200. This is a nice, small, compact scanner that's actually worked pretty well for me in doing my testing, and I use it as my primary scanner now. We're also going to work a little bit with my Epson Workforce, which is a wireless, all-in-one printer, scanner, fax, and all that. And we're going to go ahead and scan something off the flatbed on that as well. So the difference here is that's a wireless one on my network. The one we're going to use initially is directly connected to my workstation using a USB cable. A couple of different configurations. So let's go ahead and let's click scan. Now what this is doing is it's actually grabbing the document from my document feeder and it's bringing up a preview of my document. I want to see what the document is. I can double click on it and I can see, oh yeah, that's what I was looking for. If there were multiple pages, each page would be strung out to the right and then down and down and down depending on how many pages we might have attached here. So at this point I have a document. What do we do with it? Well, we can save it now. And as soon as we click save, it's going to tell us it was saved successfully and it's going to bring us back to our vendor. So how do we find those documents later? Well, if we were to go into eDocs and go search, now what it's going to do is it's going to bring up a list of any documents associated with that particular vendor. Once I'm here, I could change my search criteria. I could drop this down and change vendors. I could even put in a random search, put in some sort of text string and click the search button, and it'll search for that in any of those fields related to a document, and it'll bring up a list of everything that has those keywords, if you will, in them over here to the right. I want to view it, double click on it, it's going to open up the document for us, and there it is. So it's really simple for us to find and then even open up our documents, at which point we could print it, we could even save it. So we have the ability to now work with those documents that we've saved inside of our system. The basics of the scanning work the same regardless of where I'm working from. Be it the vendor, or maybe I'm doing a voucher as I described earlier and we want to scan in all the documents associated with the voucher, we can certainly do that. The scanning function remains basically the same. What if I had a document that was already digital? I don't need to scan it, I just need to get it into the application. Well, let's grab a different vendor and we're going to go into eDocs, and what we're going to do is we are going to use the manual option. And what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to grab an existing document, and this is actually a receipt of mine from quite some time ago. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to bring it over here and I'm going to drop it in. And just like that, we see what the document looks like. This is what I'm about to save. So I'm going to click on Initialize Document, and now it gives me the ability to decide what to do with it because I'm doing a manual entry. I'm not bringing in parameters from elsewhere, but I can say, hey, look, it's from whichever, accounts payable, accounts receivable. And you can even, by the way, add your own, if you will, apps, or call them drawers if you wanted to store stuff that might not necessarily be associated with accounts payable or accounts receivable. So you can actually start to build your own folders and subfolders, if you will, for storage, and add your own search parameters and so on. So we're gonna use accounts payable. We can select a sub app if we wanted to, a relation type. So in this case, we'll relate it to a vendor, and now we can select from a list of our vendor names. So this comes back to the SQL comment I made earlier. We're directly reaching out to the Passport SQL tables to find this list. This is where it's important to be on SQL. Now, I'm not associating it with a particular order. I could associate it with a PO number if I wanted to. Give it a name. And even throw a reference description in there. Once I'm done, I click Save, and just like that, our document's been saved. Now that we've loaded that document into eDocs, I'm actually going to move off to another vendor and show you kind of a fun little tool. We're going to go back to the Search Documents function. It's going to come up, and it's going to show me the stuff associated with that vendor, but I know I put in my name into the reference field for that Amazon receipt that I scanned, and there it is. Double click on it. There's my document. Again, I can save it, I can print it, I can review it here online. We can even send an email this document out of the application and send this off to somebody else if we actually needed to. Once we're done, we can go back to our search for something else. So it shows you the ability to be able to search for documents in the system that may or may not be associated with a particular vendor. And keep in mind, as I mentioned, when we're doing our document work, we can associate these things with a vendor, or we could also allow ourselves to not associate it with that, create our own bin. That's where when we brought in our document, we did our initialization, we could actually create our own storage folders. I'm making finger quotes here, so that we can store documents associated with virtually anything we wanted to. There's also a bulk scanning function. What does this do? This allows us to scan in a group of documents, at which point I can determine what I want to do with each individual document or group of documents as I see fit. Now I have one document on my other scanner. I had mentioned we were going to use the Epson Workforce, the wireless networked scanner. We're going to go ahead and click Scan Documents. In this case, my scanner was sleeping, so it's going to go through a quick warm-up process, and then it's going to scan the document for us. Whether I'm scanning an individual document or, again, a larger group of documents, doesn't really matter. I'll get previews, and then I can select a particular document, or I can select them all and save them how I would like to save them. So once I've scanned my document, if we click on Refresh Documents, we'll now see that we have the ability to select a particular document, and now we can actually upload it, and it asks we'd like to save the selected file. Now, it's brought in our relationship back to our vendor over here, so if I click OK, it's going to save that document against our vendor as well. At which point, the next time I do a search, I should find some additional documents against that vendor. And you'll see we have a growing list of documents that we're actually associating with this vendor as we're moving along. So there are multiple ways of getting this in here. Scanning, using our bulk scanning. Or even bringing in external documents and associating them with a vendor, a voucher, and so on. So I'm not going to go through each and every one of the tools that utilizes this, but it gives you a good basic idea of some of what we can do with the embedded document management solution that we call eDocs. I hope you found this little presentation useful. I think you will find the product to be extremely useful once you get accustomed to using it. It's going to provide some tremendous capability and allow you the opportunity to perhaps finally start working your way towards a paperless environment. And I say paperless, think paperless, right? We'll never get rid of paper. But let's cut down on the amount of paper that you're having to save. All of this stuff is being stored in a database and backed up on your server, so you have a backup of your data as well.